Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm doing an unboxing and first look on the newly released Ferris Reflex sparring gloves. So check it out. Hey guys, Carlo here. Today I'm excited to do an unboxing and first look of the newly released Ferris Reflex sparring gloves, which are powered by Skulltec. These retail for $179.98 on the Ferris Reflex website. You can get it in two different colorways, white or black. I decided to get mine in white. 10 or 14 ounces, I opted for 14, and they currently are a lace-up only model. So I'm excited to see what's inside. Let's go ahead and cut this box open and take a look. Now, Ferris Reflex really needs no introduction. They were a company that was founded by Ryan Garcia and his family, his father, Henry Garcia, and they're most notable for their Ferris Reflex Cobra Bag. It's a Cobra Bag that a ton of boxers use, both pro and novice, amateur, different levels. And I know you guys have seen all the videos, especially one of the original videos from years ago when Ryan was younger and he was hitting the Cobra Bag. And Ryan is known for his speed. He has some of the fastest hands in boxing, if not the fastest. And he was hitting the Cobra Bag at the time, and I believe that model he was hitting was the older ringside Cobra Bag. And because of that, it became super popular. You know, essentially the Cobra Bag is a piece of equipment that's actually been around for a very long time, but just not until recently, because of social media and a lot more people posting videos, it became more popular. So you're really starting to see a resurgence of the Cobra Bag in gyms. You see fighters like Canelo using the Cobra Bag. There's some recent posts he has with his new Cobra Bag that he's using from Ferris Reflex. So now Ferris Reflex has started venturing off into other equipment. They have their sparring gear, their sparring set, including these gloves, which I was really excited to see them release, just because I was a big fan of their Cobra Reflex bag and was excited to see how these gloves would turn out, especially for the fact that they looks like they are infusing Skulltec. So if you guys remember, Skulltec is that gel knuckle pad reviewed years ago. And it looks like they infused that into this glove. I'm assuming it's part of the padding. To what degree, we'll find out. So let's go ahead and open this box. Let me go ahead and fold this knife before I stab myself. So you have, first is the packing list enclosed. So it's basically just the invoice for the gloves that you purchased. It's a standard fold open box, and inside you have the gloves and your standard plastic wrap. So you have the plastic wrap there. Nothing too crazy or fancy. Go ahead and put the box to the side. I'm gonna go ahead and rip this bag open and take a look. Give you guys my initial thoughts. So you just have the bag. Got mine in white. That's how the gloves are kind of sticking together. You have a little piece of packing paper in between the two gloves. And here they are. So I got mine in white, again, 14 ounces. They currently offer 10 or 14. 14 would be, you know, for all training in the gym, including sparring. I would assume the 10s would be better if you're just using it for bag work, speed work in the midst with your coach, etc. But the 14s to me are a little bit more versatile because they're larger and you can use it for more things in the gym in terms of training. You're not going to get any weird looks if you were to use these for sparring, where you would if you were to use 10-ounce gloves for sparring. You probably won't be able to spar in those, right? So I got them in 14. And they are full leather throughout the entire glove. My first initial thoughts is they do remind me of your Pakistan-made gloves, and my best assumption is that the gloves are probably made in Pakistan, which is no surprise. That's where the vast majority of boxing gloves are manufactured, and they are made in Pakistan. There's a tag on the inside that says 14 ounces right there. So you do have that. You do have I guess you can say a double or single segmented back wrist support. It is powered by Skulltec on the back right there. You do have Ferris Reflex on the back of the hand compartment. The leather on here has kind of a satin to semi-gloss texture and feel to it. It's not super shiny, but it's not dull or matte. It has a little bit of a sheen to it. The back of the wrist support, you're looking at almost, I'd say, an inch to 1.25 inches of padding. So there's definitely a big emphasis on wrist padding on the back of the wrist. The wrist design kind of reminds me of like winning, where you have the smaller horizontal bar that goes across the top and the thicker one. At the bottom, you do have black piping on the bottom as well as on the inside, white piping around the bottom portion of the thumb. The laces on here are fairly long. They're round with plastic tips on the end. The inside does have a smooth tri-cot style liner on the inside of the hand compartment. The grip bar on here is fairly large and medium in density. And you also have a leather attached thumb at the very tip right there. No ventilated holes on either the inner portion of the thumb or on the inner portion of the palm. The glove itself feels relatively well balanced in terms of the distribution of padding. So that's a good sign. It doesn't feel like it's too top heavy. The inside of the wrist, padding wise, has about an inch of padding on the inside portion of the wrist as well. So very well padded in terms of the wrist support, and it does say 14 ounces right there. Let me go ahead and get the right glove open because I'll put both gloves on to give you guys my initial impression of the gloves. And then padding. So Skulltec is what they advertise that they use for this glove in terms of padding. The padding density on here actually feels medium. It's definitely not ultra firm and stiff. It's not rock solid. And it's definitely not like ultra soft and super broken in like a horsehair or an open cell foam glove would feel. I'd say it's right in the middle in terms of that padding density on both gloves, which is a good thing. I like that. I like gloves that are either medium density, and then you also have an open cell type foam on the inside. What's also unique, and I think is cool, the fact that they infuse that Skulltec. I don't think it's going to be that top layer. At least it doesn't feel like that. I feel like that outside layer right here that actually lands on the surface you're punching is probably some type of latex or another closed cell foam, and maybe the Skulltec is layered in between that and sandwiched in there. But I don't notice like a noticeable difference in weight either. I mean, these are 14. I don't have a scale right next to me right now, but they don't feel ultra heavy, and which was my main concern with the gel glove, is that there was going to be gel in here and it was just going to be super floppy and top heavy. If you guys remember, I did a review on some gel Gel World gloves years ago, and gel typically with the Title gloves tends to be super heavy, and that's kind of the trade-off with gel gloves. You get a very high level of shock absorption and protection, but your gloves often weigh way more, which to me is not a big deal because I don't mind that in terms of conditioning. So let's go ahead and delace these a little and put my hand in. So first thought is they're very comfortable. That tri-cot liner on the inside feels really good. Thumb position feels great. It's pushed in, nice parallel thumb. You can see I can make a fist, and it doesn't pull down on the tip of the thumb, which is good. So the attached thumb is in a good spot. It's not too far down to where it'll allow the tip of the thumb to extend out if you use these for sparring. Another thing I noticed is just the wrist support. You can definitely tell they put a lot of emphasis on the wrist support around the wrist, so that feels really good. There's leather throughout this entire glove. There's nothing synthetic on here, so that feels good. The depth of the finger compartment is good as well so far. I mean, obviously once I start using them, that's when I'm gonna really know how it feels. But a good amount of depth, not too wide, doesn't feel too narrow. And you have a secondary grip bar, like a piece of neoprene over the stitching, so you don't feel that stitching on the fingertips. The gloves, I'd say, are semi-broken in. They're not super soft where you can open and close your hands right away, but they're not ultra stiff either. I'd say they're right there in the middle in terms of broken inness, if that's even a word. But I venture to say that these gloves, once you start using them and softening them up, that this will open up and be a lot more flexible. So that left glove feels really good in terms of comfort. And again, the liner on the inside, that tri-cot liner they use, is really nice. It doesn't have any excess material, anything building up. Right glove feels good as well. Thumb position feels good. Depth of finger compartment, that neoprene grip. Wrist support feels really good as well. One thing I do like about this wrist support is that it hugs against your forearm. You know, it doesn't feel like there's this big wide opening between your forearm or your wrist and the inner liner. It feels like it hugs up against it. So again, this one has that semi-broken in feel, and it's probably gonna take some time to break these in. You know, the performance of the gloves, obviously to be determined. So once I start using them, I'll know. My biggest question is gonna be how the Skulltec performs in these gloves when you're hitting these, especially on the bag. I think that's gonna be one of the focal points eventually when I do the review of these gloves, but how well they absorb shock. Because with the Skulltec gel pads, that's their main feature, and that's why a lot of people love using Skulltecs is when they wrap their hands, they'll layer, or they'll even trim the Skulltec gel to fit their knuckles specifically, and then they'll wrap their hands up and have that layer of gel on there. And a lot of boxers like using that specifically if they're dealing with an injury, or they're using gloves that are smaller, softer in terms of the padding. So they want to use gloves that are not necessarily the most protective, but they just love the way they feel. And oftentimes what they'll do is they'll get some Skulltecs, and they'll use that as a supplemental type padding. And so I'm excited to see how they feel with this particular glove, just because the Skulltec is integrated into the padding on this glove. So definitely excited about that. One other thing I'm kind of interested is the Skulltec integrated into the rest of the padding, especially on the back of the wrist. Maybe, maybe not, I'm not too sure. But I'm definitely optimistic on how these gloves perform. So far, they look really solid. The leather on here, I'd say, is your standard Pakistan leather. Nothing I would, scream to home about. Nothing too crazy in terms of like, is this much more different than some other gloves out there in the market when it comes to Pakistan leather. So nothing too crazy there. There's nothing glaring that stands out from like a workmanship standpoint. Like nothing stitching wise that looks necessarily bad or looks like it could be done better so far. Yeah, over the knuckles looks pretty good. No over stitching. There's some stitching right here, maybe where the thumb meets the index finger, that you can see is kind of pulling on the leather. But that's kind of a common thing you see with a lot of gloves. There's some wrinkles on this outside edge right here. That's not a bad thing, but there looks like there's like a little bit of dirt on the inside of the wrinkles. So I don't know if these are like sitting on a shelf in the warehouse and they just kind of collected some dirt or dust right there, but there is some right there. And there's a little bit of nicking right here on the knuckles. Hopefully you guys can capture that. I don't know in the video, but I'm kind of concerned about that. Those nicks right here on the strike surface. So I'm kind of concerned. Hopefully that doesn't become an issue with me using these gloves and that opening up or it becoming a tear. But overall, they look pretty solid so far. I think they look awesome. The logo is done nicely. I like that Fierce Reflex logo. I think that's clean. And I like the fact that they put the Scout powered by Skulltec. And honestly, they didn't overly do it with the design. Like they didn't splatter Fierce Reflex all over the glove, which I can appreciate. So definitely excited to try these out. Eventually, I will be doing a review of these gloves. If you guys have any questions or comments, you guys know what to do. Put them down below. I'll put the link in the description box where you can find these Fierce Reflex sparring gloves. I'll see you guys later. Peace.